And we're live.
All right. Welcome to Back Row Pastors. We are. Did you say we're ranked now?
I imagine we are. Well, we're still not technically in the podcast world. Remember, we wanted to get like 10 done, so I think we're 6 away now.
Six
This will be
away.
Our fourth. Guess this is season 1, episode 4.
Season 1, episode 4. I'm waiting to. And what platforms are we going to be on? Apple.
So currently, we're on Facebook, YouTube, our website, and Roku. As far as when we go into the podcast world and you won't be able to see our smiling faces, that will be wherever your popular podcast areas are. So, like, I prefer Spotify podcasts, but I like Spotify more than I do Apple. So
My wife is a Spotify. She listens to Spotify. I listen to Apple.
yeah.
But you just come over to the Apple world anyway. You finally found Jesus and came to the Apple world over your. What do they call those computers? I guess that would be a.
Well, I had the best phone I had was a Google Pixel. Like, that was my favorite phone. But I had a Samsung Galaxy this last go round. If my wife wouldn't have complained about green text messages as much as she did.
Well, you single-handedly caused most group messaging to stop.
And that was a plus.
Computer-wise, though, you use Apple.
No.
You don't? You still use the
Yeah, we're running on Windows right
Windows.
now. So
That's what it is.
you're welcome.
I am looking for a laptop right now, and I will tell you, cost-wise, I'm looking for one for my son, and cost-wise, oh my goodness, Windows is far more
Oh, yeah.
cost-effective,
Oh,
but
for sure.
you get more, if I remember correctly, and I've been with Apple for years, but you get more viruses.
I mean, it's drastically slowed down.
Has it?
Oh, yeah.
They fixed a lot of that?
Well, you don't. I mean, you used to have to go get like McAfee or
Oh, yeah.
the other virus protectors, but you don't even need those anymore. You know, it's gotten that good.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Nice. See, if they had the same, because as far as security goes, if they had the same as Apple did when it comes to viruses, I would switch back to the Windows. Because Windows is more, I say it like this, Apple's more like a Chevy. It's very blocky, you're going to get what you get, but
Yeah.
Windows has way more, the gamer world, the graphic world, it's a lot more bells and whistles.
Well,
And they have swipe.
and you can like upgrade Windows a lot easier than you can do Apple. I mean, I can upgrade some of the Apple stuff, but even now, like if you don't buy top of the line for a computer-wise, if you don't buy a top of the line Apple, you're gonna have a hard time upgrading it later.
Correct, because I'm looking at like a MacBook Air, like the
Sure.
2017 edition.
See, I would stay away from the Airs all day.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Why is that?
no storage space, and
Ah,
Apple inherently just takes up a ton of like their operating system takes up a ton of storage and all their other little stuff.
well, let me ask you this. So I would normally call my buddy Travis Thibodeau
Oh yeah,
down in Louisiana, best gaming laptop that's not going to break the bank. $500-ish.
oh man, for $500.
Okay,
you wanna-
does it exist?
Do you want a laptop?
Yes, I want a laptop.
That one's going to be tough at $500. I would look for your biggest thing is going to be your operating system and your memory, and then graphics. To me, I go, yeah, it's great to have like 4K, like that's awesome, but 1080p is just fine. If you're looking for really high-end gaming, you're going to look at like 60 frames a second. But you're probably not going to get that for $500.
Yeah, see, you've already lost me. I need something that my teenage son can
Sure.
play a game on.
Sure.
That's what I do. But, okay, I got a question.
Okay.
I am a football guy.
Yep.
I know nothing about soccer.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched.
Exciting game.
It was. I
Exciting
watched the game yesterday. Between that to me was Rocky and Drago. And that's why I watched it. It was America versus Russia, the Miracle Hockey, right?
Sure.
Nobody in Alabama watches hockey, but everybody knows about that movie.
Sure.
So yesterday, America versus Iran. And they played defense back to try to get a tie because tie sends Iran forward, sends us home.
Sure.
And then our boy, while he got hurt, put the header in the net, change the dynamics, right?
Yep.
So what now? Is this like the Sweet 16 that we're in?
Pretty much.
Explain what happens from here on. I know.
We have made it out of the round play. We were second. England was first. So England's going to be in the top 7. And they are going to be, I don't actually know if they have figured out who they're playing yet. I think the rest of the game's finished today. We are going on. We're playing Saturday, 9 a.m. for us back home. At 9 a.m. we're playing the Netherlands. So this is the knockout stages.
So if we lose, we're out.
If we lose, it's done.
It's done. But we got there. Is this the first time we've gotten there?
No, in 2002 we made it to the quarterfinals. So with one more game past this. So it's going to be a good game against the Netherlands because just like them, we did not make the last World Cup. Neither did they. So this is going to be an interesting one.
Have you looked at any lines? Are we expected to win this, or is it pretty much a 50-50?
I have not looked at any lines yet. I think it's going to matter who you're talking about is Christian Pulisic.
Yep.
Pulisic. Abdominal injury. If he is back, everybody says he is our best player. If he's back, I think he changes the dynamic of the game. We've made some good moves as far as like lineups. You know, we went for a more traditional 4-4-2 against England, and it seemed to turn out well. We just have to get better. If you watch the game, against England, we didn't possession-wise. We didn't have a whole ton of possession, but on the flip side of that, we had a ton more opportunities. We're just not converting. That's been, I would say, the bane of the U.S. team's existence has been that they are not converting.
The most watched game in U.S. soccer history, though.
Yeah, I believe it.
England and U.S. and then Iran and U.S. So do you feel like soccer is catching fire in America?
You can see it after we do well every year. You'll see a bump in younger kids playing soccer.
So, like, when I think of soccer, I think of the England teams.
Sure.
You know, you see them on TV, they go nuts. I think of Argentina, and I think of Spain.
Argentina they are struggling right now. They may not make it.
Wow.
So
aren't they a powerhouse?
They typically are a powerhouse.
So it's kind of like Green Bay Packers right now.
Kind of like the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, they may not make it, or Tom Brady may not make it. Do you feel like that soccer is evened out as far as talent in the world goes?
Well, we have more, like, from a U.S. perspective, we have a lot more players playing in England. And so anytime, or in Spain, or in any of the other bigger leagues, and you see a lot more, they're closer to retirement, but you see more English players kind of coming here for their last check to get playing in the U.S. And the MLS, and so it's closer than it ever has been. The women's side, we dominate.
Right.
Men's side, it's getting a lot closer.
Well, good. I watched soccer for the first time, maybe ever, other than just kind of glancing at it. But I actually watched it because I wanted us to beat Iran.
Oh yeah, well, and
Iran, as he was corrected.
There was a lot of we scrubbed their little logo and the flag for one of them, and so there was a lot of political angst going into that game, which is always kind of the fun part of the World Cup, just like the Olympics.
Sure, you're going to see who's got the political axes to grind, and
Iran's trying to get us kicked out of the World Cup.
And I think half of that's hype to it's kind of like Saban and Jimbo.
Oh yeah.
They all summer long. Now that would have helped a lot if Jimbo had backed up his mouth, but most of that, in my opinion, was we're going to hype up the SEC. Speaking of the SEC, did you see where they are not going to have an East and a West?
Really?
Yeah, because I thought
after Texas and Oklahoma.
I thought when Texas and Oklahoma came in, they would be in the West. You basically have the old Southwest, the old Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. Most people don't remember the Southwest Conference, but before we took Missouri and A&M. But it looks like it's just going to be a little more of a round robin. That'll be interesting. I don't know how they do that.
Well, I guess they'll keep the traditional rivalries at all times. But
USC loses.
If USC loses,
USC loses,
Well, who's 5?
They are a 2-loss team.
Alabama
5 is Ohio
Ohio
State.
State at 1. Not good.
Alabama is 6.
Interesting.
Tennessee is 7.
I'm surprised. Is Hooker back?
No, he's out for the year.
Out for the year.
And that's what they say, that they dropped him because they don't
Sure.
feel like they can compete without Hooker.
Well, I believe it.
Do you think Alabama gets in over Ohio State? You're not a homer. That's why I'm asking. Ohio State looked really bad against Michigan.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm trying to think of Ohio State's resume. I guess they played Notre Dame.
Alabama's lost 2 games by 2 kicks.
Yeah, and they lost to LSU. I think the hard part for them, for Alabama, is going to be LSU losing to South Carolina.
A&M.
A&M, sorry.
Yeah,
So bad.
Clemson lost South Carolina.
Clemson lost
Yeah.
to South Carolina. A&M.
Like Clemson and LSU got knocked out of playoff contention, but Alabama sitting at 10-2
So-
with a missed field goal as the deciding factor. Or Ohio State with 1 loss. You put a 2-loss team in over a 1-loss team? Interesting. They better hope all 4 win in the championship.
Yeah, I got TCU's got to go. They have to go. I think if TCU ends up 1 loss, they're out.
Really?
No matter.
That's interesting because they don't have the pedigree.
I don't think they have the pedigree. You go Georgia.
Georgia's in.
Yeah, I think Georgia's in regardless of what happens in the championship.
Yeah, I think Michigan's in.
I think Michigan is in.
I can't see Michigan losing to Purdue, but USC has to play Utah, and Utah has already beat them this year.
Right, they're their 1 loss. So it is a makeup. It's interesting.
USC goes to 2 losses.
I think Bama has about a, if you had to give it some odds, 10% chance of making it in, maybe.
After watching the other teams, I don't know that Alabama could beat Georgia or Michigan. I think they could run with TCU. I think they can run with USC. But I think Georgia and Michigan, that's going to be a clash of the Titans this year. Both of them have similar styles, too.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to see Georgia lose in the championship for Alabama to have a chance.
Yeah.
And if you see TCU lose, USC is going to need to lose.
If TCU loses and USC loses, it's chaos.
Yeah, if USC loses, I think they're out. Though you got to admire Lincoln Riley a little bit going from Oklahoma now to USC, both in the playoffs.
Yeah, like he flipped the program around overnight.
Right.
And when it wasn't a 3-year rebuild, he took a quarterback with him, and now they're talking about, and the Pac-12 hadn't been in the CFP championship in 6-7 years.
Sure.
Utah, I think, was the last one, maybe. But that's all the sports questions I had. I don't really have anything else with sports other than I was reading up on the Atlanta Braves yesterday, and the big question comes: do they re-sign Swamby?
I'm not a big baseball guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a big baseball guy. The Rangers were always my team, so we're terrible now. So.
Are you a Nolan Ryan fan?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, figured
Yeah.
you would be.
Of course.
Like I remember going to Braves games back with my dad. We'd always try to go to the Braves-Dodgers game
Sure.
because there'd be a bench clear every time. But Fernando Valenzuela would pitch, and he'd beam somebody, and then they'd clear the benches. But that was back in the days of Dale Murphy and Bob Horner and all those guys. And I followed them in the 90s. Chipper Jones, probably my favorite player of all time. But I like the Glavine and Smoltz and Avery world. But I haven't kept up with them probably. I mean, I know the names, but I don't follow it as much as I used to. I still enjoy it. It's just so dadgum long.
Yeah, I can't. I played 1 season of fantasy baseball, and just going through 160 games. And I played the one, there's somewhere you can set your lineup. You have to set your lineup in the week for the whole week, or you can set it up daily. And I played the daily, and I was like, oh gosh,
that's 80-something games. Feels like forever.
Shoot.
Speaking of fantasy, you and I are playing this week.
We are playing this week,
and
you're projected to win.
Yeah, I am. I got lucky with a couple of my trades, and so I've made a last-minute run. Looks like I'm going to squeak into the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty standard. I usually squeak in at 6 or 5.
Well, I feel like I bet our playoffs are pretty set in the league. If I had to, if I went and looked, I bet they're pretty set.
Number 6 is probably the one that's still up for the grabs. Everybody else, I think, is in. But
yeah, I think I'm at 3 right now.
You are. You're at 3. I'm at 5. And if I beat you, you'll still be ahead of me because you have more points.
Well, I have more wins. I think I have less points for. Because I think he goes wins, points for.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
That's what it was. That's all the sports I had.
All the sports you have.
That's all the sports I had. So I
mean,
don't.
Well, it's kind of. This is kind of that dead time. You know, NBA started, so they're about.
I despise the NBA. Like when football season ends, I go into a couple of months of mourning.
No, see, I'm a big NBA fan. I love the NBA.
I love college basketball.
Sure, I don't. See, I'm not a big fan of college basketball.
We just beat North Carolina.
I did see that.
Yeah,
I did.
4 overtimes. Dude, I guarantee they had to drag them out to the car. You have to be exhausted after 4 overtimes. And think of all that adrenaline at the end. We're tied again. Got to do it again. Got to do it again. But Alabama's making a run, man. They're ranked 14th, I think, now. And they're winning the games they're supposed to win, which has been the difference. And us beating North Carolina will be, come turning time.
Sure.
It'll be considered a, what is that, quad win or whatever they call them. Yep. So it'll be a quad win, but I'm a college fan. I despise the NBA. I can't stand watching.
When I was in college, I went to almost all our basketball home games at Sam Houston, which they just had their first loss. So, but they did beat Oklahoma. So hey,
Bearcats beat Oklahoma.
Oh yeah,
there you go.
Oh yeah, Bearcats with a K.
Who's the best, greatest NBA player of all time?
In my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Well, Dirk Nowitzki.
Oh my gosh, of the all-time greats, that's who you're just being a homer there.
Well,
like
it's true.
Yeah. You're a huge Mavs fan.
I'm a huge Dallas Mavericks fan.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Yes, he was. Michael Finley was probably my favorite Maverick of all time, but Dirk Nowitzki is, he was a great. He's going to be a Hall of Famer for sure.
Okay. Well, you still don't believe Troy Aikman was the greatest Dallas quarterback.
I don't.
So
Tony Romo.
Tony Romo is not. How many championships did he win?
If you go by so Dan Marino's a terrible quarterback.
No, he's a great quarterback, but he's not one of the best.
Dan Marino's not one of the best quarterbacks.
Nah.
Okay.
You got to win something.
So you're saying Trent Dilfer is better than Dan Marino?
Yeah. Did you see Trent Dilfer's stats?
Okay. Yeah.
Greatest basketball player of all time.
Greatest basketball player of all time?
Dirk, that's who you're going with.
Well, if I had to say, Wilt Chamberlain has to be. How he's not in the conversation, I don't understand.
I think a lot of people forget about him. He's just a big guy.
I mean, he dominated, and they didn't have a three-point line.
Correct.
He didn't have that advantage. Like, Michael Jordan had that advantage. If you look at Michael Jordan, I think he's better than LeBron James. But he got smashed by the Detroit Pistons in their bad boy era and Isaiah Thomas, and then he could not get past the Celtics when they were good. And
well, that's because they actually had the greatest player of all time, Larry Bird.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
He's in that conversation.
He's hard to argue with.
Yeah.
You go. I mean, if you're a championship guy, you go 6-0, undefeated. Retired, came back, won another three-peat.
It's
hard to argue with that.
I would have to argue Jordan's probably, Bird's up there, Chamberlain's up there. I think Shaq's up there.
I mean, if you're talking just champion, Robert Horry has 10 championships. Big Shot Bob.
I know, that's crazy.
So you go, is he not in the conversation?
He's a Bama dude.
He's not in the conversation, but
he's never in the conversation. But I remember watching him back in the '80s.
Good old Big Shot Bob, man. He hit some big ones. I hated watching him play for the San Antonio Spurs.
I hate the San Antonio Spurs, just in general.
Yeah, I don't care for that.
If I had to pick, my favorite team is Miami Heat. Now, back in the day, it was the Atlanta Hawks because they had Dominique Wilkins and Spud Webb. But I like the Heat because I was a Dwayne Wade fan.
Of course you were. This is why we can't be friends. If you breathed on the guy in the 2006 finals, he went to the line. So, I think he had 30 free throw shots in one game. I was like, come on, there's no way. Outside of sports, I do have a question for you. So we've been in the series Functional Family, and we're coming up we're ending this Sunday. And if you guys haven't watched it, all those are available on YouTube. But I know at the beginning of a series, you kind of have a goal in mind. And so I'm kind of wondering, do you feel like you have achieved what you want it to achieve?
You know, I'm a relationship guy, and
Sure.
and I love talking about relationships. I think it's very hard to convey in 40 minutes what I want to convey. So like when this series, I have walked off the stage every week frustrated, not in a way that I didn't convey what I wanted to convey, but I didn't convey as much as I wanted to convey because it's a different type. So like we teach small groups, right, with the marriage class. We're going to have, or we've talked about having,
Sure.
I mean, we'll speak it into existence today. We're going to have a marriage conference in February. But at the marriage conference, you get to go more in depth. And so I feel like we've scratched the surface. I feel like that this message series has really hit home with a lot of people based on feedback that I get
Sure.
in text messages. I think the words that we say in negativity hit home with a lot of people, and I think the forgiveness side hit home with a lot of people. But I feel like I've conveyed what I wanted to convey. I feel like it's been a good series. It's gotten a lot of feedback and a lot of interaction, which is how I gauge series.
Sure.
I feel like, talking about toxic relationships last week, I wanted to throw a curveball at the end.
Yeah, you did.
I did. I threw a
You did.
curveball. But at the end of the day, you sit there and my statement that really frustrates so many people, and it's not my statement, it's Gary Chapman's statement from National Institute of Marriage, focused on the family stuff. Years and years ago when I heard this, it sank into me so deep that it became a mantra of mine, is it's not your job to change them.
Sure.
And in almost every, I'd say 95% of counseling that I do, 95% of people who just sit down, at Buddy's or Waffle House.
And throw it up.
Yeah, it's if they would. And at the end of the day, we couldn't change them if we wanted to, but
Sure.
we spend so much time trying to that when I heard that statement, it's not your job to change or fix them. It's the most freeing statement in the world. Because it's not my job. My job is to be the best me. And I think that got conveyed really well.
Yeah.
I heard that. You and I both know that when you start talking about verbiage, repeatable
yeah.
verbiage, you start hearing it in conversation. And I've heard a lot of, it's not on me to fix them. If you got a crazy aunt,
Sure.
right, that shows up to Christmas and throws hissy fit.
Yep.
You're not going to change that.
Sure.
Your job's to love her. Your job's to, and I mean, honestly, if you don't want to be around her, don't go.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's the most freeing thing for me is knowing going into it that they're going to be who they are. My job is to pray for them, to love them, to forgive them, and the rest of it's really up to God. And so I think that got conveyed really well. We're finishing this week with the greatest gift you can give. What's the best Christmas gift you've ever gotten?
Ever gotten?
Ever. In your whole life, what's the best one?
I guess I'd probably.
Two questions. What's the most memorable, and then what's the best?
I think I'd separate it into two. What's the best gift I ever got, like, as a child? I got a Ruger 1022 from my dad.
Woo!
Still have it. That one was exciting. It was 10. That was my first, gun to get. So that was an exciting time for me. I guess as more of an adult, I think the best gift I get. I'm a big koozie guy. Like, I love koozies.
Yep.
And Claire got this leather koozie made for me. That's, I don't ever use it, but it's really nice.
Somebody, was it
probably
you
most
that gave me
memorable.
one? Who gave me the flak jacket koozie?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that was an awesome koozie. It was if you don't know what a flak jacket, it's a military flak jacket koozie. I still have that. It was an awesome koozie.
Yeah, that was probably one of. Yeah, koozies are one of my favorite things. Like that. That's what I collect, I guess.
Mhm.
Some people collect baseball cards. I collect koozies.
Yeah, there you go.
Always have. What about you? Most memorable as a child and as an adult?
As a child, I remember getting probably changed the trajectory of my life if I really sat back and thought about it. But my parents bought me a Little Green Man Army set.
Yep.
And by Little Green Man Army set, it was Little Green Army Men, right?
Yep.
And it had a rock castle.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and man, it wasn't like 20, it was like 1,000. To which my mom regretted the rest of her life because she stepped on those things. We had shag carpet.
That was the version of the Lego for
Yeah, it was. It was absolutely the version of the Lego. But man, I would sit in my room for hours and just play with those, and so that's probably the most memorable one. I'll be honest, I like you like koozie, I like coffee cups.
Yeah.
I like coffee cups, and my kids have gotten me some coffee cups over the years, and they're the cheesy ones. You know, they have those
Number
goofy.
one dad.
Yeah, exactly. They have those goofy Christmas sales that you send money so they can buy you junk. But every year, I mean, that they're in elementary school, I've gotten a coffee cup from my kids, and to me, I would rather have those than pretty much anything. It's just a weird thing with me, and I don't drink out of them a lot because I like the big fat coffee cups because it holds more coffee. But I wouldn't let anybody get rid of those coffee cups because every time I see them,
That's my thing.
that's my thing.
That's the thing they get. Yeah, see, they get me a nutcracker every year. Like I like nutcrackers,
Mm-hmm.
and so we have our house is like flooded with nutcrackers because we have so many. Claire asked me this year if she could get rid of some that are more on the well-loved side, and I keep telling her no.
It's like my wife and snowmen. My house threw up snowmen over Thanksgiving. I'm like, so when I got married, my wife had a doll collection,
Sure.
and if you've ever watched Chucky,
Oh gosh,
every time I
one of
would
those creepy dolls.
Well, it was they were the porcelain
Oh,
dolls.
gosh,
the
even worse.
girl and her grandmother gave them to him. So it's
Yeah.
that weird thing of I don't want to tell you that you can't have your grandmother's dolls, but
Sure.
those things stare at you.
Oh yeah, no matter where you are.
Yeah, you walk by them and their eyes move with you, and they really creep me out. And so they're in the attic now, but I feel like the snowmen are watching me as well. But they're happier about it
Sure.
than
They
the
smile a little more than
creepy Chucky dolls.
Yeah, those porcelain dolls are just. It's kind of like my kids were into American Girl dolls for a while.
Yeah.
And I did not. I was never one of those things. Like I've never understood or gotten why. Like Paisley was really into, like when she was real young, when she was first, I guess, toddler. She was into babies, like, and so she had a baby. I remember we forgot it at the restaurant one time, and it was like the world was gonna end. She was not happy, so we had to go back and get it.
Yeah, we went through that stage once with the American Girl dolls. Although I couldn't afford the American Girl dolls, they was
Right,
the
it was
Target version.
brand, whatever that brand was.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I agree with that. We did the same thing. We had, I think my mom got him some American Girl dolls. Quinn still has them. She plays with them. She had, we'll go in her room in the morning, and apparently she was up at night having a party. Like, she had all the dolls laid out, and she had a sleepover with them. And so I just went.
Well, I definitely feel like we missed the Barbie stage, but we did
did
have
have
the
some
American
Barbies.
Girl dolls. We had some, like I remember some.
Interesting statistic I heard the other day. It comes to Legos that a Lego set is sold every 7 seconds around the world.
And I don't understand that. Last week you asked me what the most overrated side was, to which I still say is cranberry sauce.
Even after Thanksgiving.
Even after Thanksgiving. I was looking at the sides to see what didn't go well, and there was actually one that I was like, didn't do so, as mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's but I feel like mashed potatoes are worthless at any time of the year.
I
But
think that's just a consensus, is that the mashed potatoes is just there to fill a hole.
it is. It
Like,
is. I
'cause
mean, the only reason anybody eats mashed potatoes is because of the gravy.
If you don't have the whole island full of trays and things, then you haven't done enough.
Right.
And
That's
so they just put mashed potatoes out there for that reason.
well, mashed potatoes have no taste whatsoever unless you put gravy on it.
I mean, I like mashed potatoes, but I pretty much like any potato, so except sweet potatoes.
See, that's just communistic to me. But I think the most overrated Christmas gift in the world is Legos.
See, my family would wholly disagree with you.
Here's my thing with Legos. You build it once,
Yep.
and then it goes into this cluster biff box of Legos,
Mm-hmm.
never to be built the same manner again. Then you just wind up with this huge box of hodgepodge Legos that don't build anything.
That's the perks of Legos, is that, your imagination is the only thing holding you back.
Apparently, I have no imagination because I could never build anything beyond, like, all of mine was like, but it's like SimCity to me. I watch all these people play SimCity, and I'm like, I don't.
Talk about an old game.
Yeah, I just aged myself a little bit, but SimCity, it's kind of funny. I walked in the other day, and my kids were playing something equivalent to it. It was,
Sure.
I don't remember what it was, but I'm like, all that is SimCity.
Yeah, I played Roller Coaster Tycoon and built the amusement parks.
Ah, Roller Coaster
as a kid.
Tycoon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then you'd always make too dangerous of a roller coaster, and you'd kill a bunch of people, and they would just. That's what happens.
That was the days when the games were good.
Your amusement park get shut down.
I actually played Madden with my son the other day. He went to popping off, and I destroyed him.
What
There's two games I could play. I was never a gamer. Like I never I got an Atari.
Sure.
And we had Pitfall and Donkey Kong, and I remember going to
No Pong.
We had Pong. We had all of the Centipede, Cubert, all of those games. But I remember going to the skating rink and being able to play those games.
Sure.
Pole position
at
the skating rink was still my favorite because you could shift and you were really steering and all of that. But that being said, I've never been much of a gamer. Nintendo, I played Mario and I played Punch-Out.
Oh, yeah.
There's two games I ever knew how to play of any gaming system. In college, I almost flunked out of college playing James Bond 007.
Yep.
It was kind of one of the first multiplayer games, and me and my roommate, Kerry Martin, we called him K-Mart, we would sit and skip class.
Sure.
Because we'd be in the middle of a game and, go to the temple or throw the mines. So I could still, we played that game so much, I still think that if I put that game in, I could still beat most people and remember where everything was at. And then there's Madden. And that's all I ever really know. I play all my boys play these crazy games, even the active shooter games,
Sure.
and I can't do them. I like Medal of Honor, but I never really got past the first stage. So, but I liked it.
Yeah, 007 was a high school for me, and then my college one would have been Halo 2.
Ah, Halo.
Yep, I would have. That one we played, we figured out that we could connect to our dorm, via wired internet, and we could play everybody. We played a bunch of people, and then we would see each other at parties and be like, "Oh, you're so and so," and we'd be like, "Oh yeah," but it was never our real names; it was our gamer names.
So, what do you think the key is to a functional family? You asked me.
Key to a functional family.
You asked me if I felt like I'd conveyed what I wanted to.
Well, I think if I had to go off of your sermons, it would be look at yourself first.
Not off of my sermons. What do you think the key to a successful relationship is? Not marriage, successful relationship in general. Could be marriage.
I think, I read an interesting article the other day talking about the 5-to-1 ratio. How it's about marriage, but I feel like it works in any relationship that you should have 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction. And how much, and that this was, after their years of research and all these things, that was the key to a successful marriage, was marriages that were at 1-to-1 were, on the brink of failure. 2-to-1 was a little bit better, but if you got to 5-to-1, you were going to be in a happy marriage. I think within any relationship, it is you get what you put in. And so if I put in a bunch of negative junk with my kids or with friends or with family, I'm going to get negative junk back. So
how do you get away from the negative in a culture that seems to thrive on it? Because, let's be real. You turn on the news, you look at Facebook, you look at social media, it's all freaking negative.
Sure. It is. Well, yeah, 100% it's negative.
So how do you keep that out of your relationship?
Even in your home, when you get home to Cassie, what's the first thing, you or she does, like after work, you throw out all your crap. You
Yeah, everything that
this
happened
is,
today.
This is all the junk that not the you don't ever. How often do you talk about the good things?
Well, we're probably a bad example because only good things happen with my job.
Yeah.
You know, because
Well, okay,
I
about
work
her
for
job.
God, and there's nothing negative in my
Well,
life. So.
within her job.
Within her
she's,
job.
She's had some issues with an espresso machine, and I'm
Oh my
sure that
gosh,
has
I'm
been-
about to throw that thing in the lake. We called and they're like, the probe is
Yeah.
outdated and we're back ordered and we can't get supplies. And I'm like, does this mean I need to go buy another one?
Yeah, she texted me today and asked me a few questions about it, and I've done my best, but man,
Unless YouTube's got how to change a probe on an espresso machine.
well, it's not even that hard, but getting the part probably is very difficult.
Well, that's what two of the places right now said they're back ordered and that probe is outdated. So, you know.
In saying that, I'm sure that's what she comes home first, and
Oh, it was.
she's got to get all that out.
Yep.
And so I have that same, Claire will come in and it's all the bad things, and there's a few times that I just have to go, hey, what's something positive that happened today? Just trying to
Focus
trying to get our gauges back. It was something Claire and I used to do in the past. We had a shared document. You can share Word documents with each other very easily, and it was just everyday good things. And so every day we tried to write something down that we saw that was positive in our day. And every so often I go back and look, and I'll add some stuff. But it was even like, hey, it was a great, sunrise, or.
That's interesting.
and
So y'all would share a Word document, and anything positive you saw during the day, you would write it down on it.
We tried to commit to say we want to write one positive thing every day.
Ah,
And so we would write it down, and it would, it could be silly stuff, but even at the end of the day, just saying, I want to see more of the positive. But
I think that's a huge key. I think one of the keys for me in any relationship is the words that we say.
sure,
And so when you look at the Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, there's words of affirmation. And that's not my love language, but I think the majority of people, when you look at scripture and you look at relationships combined, it talks about, how we communicate and how we talk to each other. And obviously the tongue has the power of life and death. You can you could tear somebody down and ruin their whole. I mean, you even look at kids who are living with words that were spoken over them 30 years ago, and they're in counseling now.
it's funny you talk about the tongue, and you started with that verse, because we took 5-6 out to the barn, and they got to hang out with horses, and they brought out a bit, and I was like, we just talked about like this bit in this horse's mouth can control this horse, and I go, look how small that is. And they were all kind of like, really, that's what they're talking about? And I'm like, yeah, see.
And it's a thousands of pound animal,
Yeah,
that one little bit.
They're warning them, hey, don't stand behind them.
Well, one of the things with words that I try to encourage in counseling is words of affirmation is a great starting point.
Sure.
But answer the question why behind every word of affirmation. Answer
Why?
the question why. I love you. Why?
Oh, okay.
Um,
That's a clever.
I appreciate you. Why? Man, you did a great job. Why? Or how? But I think far too often we throw out, yep, love you. I mean, how many times do you, yep, love you, or you send an emoji or something like that, where if you took it one extra step and said why, think
So,
about
like,
the spirit that would live.
So give us an example. So you're talking to Cassie,
Well.
and you're going to say, I love you.
Because I love the way that you're a mom to our kids and the patience that you have with them that I can never begin to attain.
Sure.
Or I love the way that you go and you work so hard during the day
Yep.
to make our life better. I love the fact that you bring a smile. Like I watch her interact with her customers at the cake shop, and man, she loves it.
Yep.
And if you can find something you love doing, and she's even told me before when she was just at the trailer, she said my favorite part of it is interacting with the people.
Sure.
Which is funny to me because when we first met, she was a very shy, not expressively outgoing person, and to watch how she has, moved into her calling with people. It's just been fun to watch. But
I mean, I would agree with you until she tries to karate chop me in the throat.
she does try to throat chop you often.
Yeah.
But I think when you answer the question why behind every compliment, it changes the dynamic, because then it's not just flippant words. You've had to put thought behind it. I appreciate you. Okay, that's nice. Why?
Why? It's almost like because.
You look nice. Why?
You look nice because.
Yeah.
That's a.
Your butt's popping in them jeans. I don't know. But, I mean, you think about that, and then you tell your spouse that all of a sudden they're like, oh, they got a little swagger in their step, and they got a little confidence boost. And, it goes past the rushing out the door, love you too.
I mean, I like that piece of advice because I feel like it's really practical. And I'm big on this is a practical step you can take to move forward. And that seems like an extra 3 words could make all the difference.
It is. And you talk about practical. That's probably my pet peeve in counseling and in church world is you come in and you can have all this great words and this great, TED Talk or this great book, whatever, but if it's not practical, you're just out for a walk. Like how is this going to actively help me? So even in the sermons, my goal is to give you something that you can take out and use on Tuesday.
Almost like a next step.
Like a next step. But yeah, because otherwise you're just sitting there listening to a talk, and I can listen to a talk on the computer.
Well, yeah.
I can listen to a podcast. I can listen to 100 things, but how is this going to benefit me on Thursday?
Right.
How is this going to benefit my marriage when we're in the middle of an argument? How is this going to benefit me when crazy Aunt Sally comes over? So I think we lose that aspect in counseling. So even counseling, I'm a tool-based counselor.
Sure.
I'm not going to ask you how much you were bounced on your knee by your mama. I don't care. What I want to find out is how to move forward. We'll have to talk some about the past, but ultimately it's like, what steps can I take to improve the situation I'm in?
Well, I think that's a very Christian way to look at things. Is not everybody looks at their, you don't look at your BC days, your before Christ days. You look at it. Here's where I formed that relationship, and how has that relationship with Christ gotten better and moved me forward. See, I think it's that old timer phrase, let go, let God.
Yep. Well, how?
Like that.
How do you do that?
Christianese frustrates me, but let go, let God was what led me to Christ.
Yeah.
And so I remember the sermon specifically, and I just went, all right, fine. Like, I get it. Like, I'm going to let go, and I'm going to let God, and I don't know, life changed.
Well, that took on a whole new meaning for me when I was battling cancer and laying there on the table and couldn't do anything. Sure. Let go, let God. I figured out what it meant. But what frustrates me is we have all of these phrases.
Yep.
I want you to tell me how to apply that. Yep. Application to me is far greater than knowledge.
Yep. I like, especially here, I feel like we have really started to kind of dive into next steps, because that's where I go. Because I go, hey, you've accepted Christ, so you got baptized, what's next? And I just go, and I think people look at next steps and they think, oh, that's the only ones.
Yep.
But realistically, I go, it's everywhere from, hey, maybe you give for the first time, or maybe you take communion for the first time. Like, what a great next step to take. Or maybe you join a group, or you start serving, or any of the Gospels. I think Mark is the easiest to read in the Gospels out of all of them. And so that might be one of them. Luke, Mark, one of those two.
I like Luke because he's got a lot of parables.
Yep.
I like, for me, John is always an easy one. I think oftentimes I try to look at the person, like, I like Galatians.
Sure.
It's the happy book.
No Leviticus for you.
No Leviticus. Oh my gosh. Like, if you want to beat your head into a pew.
If it's somebody, like, I like Joshua. For me, because I go, he's just uber faithful, and that's what I like. Faith is the one I struggle with because I question a lot. And watching Joshua, I just feel like, man, he put his head down, moved forward, and like changed generations. And so I like Joshua.
I like Joseph.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like Joseph because he had so many ups and downs.
Sure.
But it shows that even if you're in a pit or you're in a prison or you're in a whatever, that God's still working it out. That story's always resonated with me just because he had so many ups and downs. I feel like his was. Samson's another one that I relate to Samson because Samson was self-inflicted and he was an idiot. And I feel like a lot of times that's me as far as Old Testament go. I mean, Peter's obviously one of my favorite characters because I relate to him.
Sure.
But I think Joseph, just because of his ups and downs, and God always seemed to work it out, even when it wasn't on his timing. Like he got in the prison, told the guy, "Hey, remember me," and it was 2-3 years later before the guy even remembered him. So it's like for the love, but he didn't lose faith in any of that. And then he got to kind of stick it to his brothers there at the end, but he didn't. You know, he put the silver cup. He
kind of did.
He toyed with them. Yeah.
It's like,
and I appreciate that. He trolled them in today's world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have started watching. I didn't really understand what that meant until probably the past couple of years. You know, trolling. I'm not up on the hip.
Oh no. Would you call yourself a troll?
I have been known to subliminally troll on occasion.
Sure.
It's kind of like, it's why I like Elon Musk.
Sure.
Elon, I'm watching this Twitter thing. I reactivated my Twitter account.
Of course you did.
I'm not going to get on there because I've actually gotten on there and typed 3 different tweets out. And I have deleted all 3 of them. That's a dangerous place for me to speak what is on my mind and react to a situation. But I reactivated. But I'm watching this Elon Musk stuff, and I don't even want to get into politics. But he's cracking me up. Like, he does not care.
No.
I guess if I had $44 billion, I wouldn't care either.
If you watch his podcast with him, you can just tell, he's just... You can tell when he walks into the room, he's the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
And you watch his podcasts, and he's like, I'm bored with you. Let me finish this so I can go do some real work.
That's what it is. I like anything that tweaks the bobblehead of the liberals or the Pharisees.
Sure.
And so I think that's where I like to troll is I can't stand the Pharisee mentality and the religious side of it. And I feel like Jesus did it some too, because he'd kind of poke at them a little bit just to get the reaction.
You know, we were just talking about the greatest commandments, and Jesus talking, and the Pharisees trying to trap him, and he's just like, no.
Nah, I kind of wrote the book.
Yeah,
you know.
I kind of know what I'm talking about. Gonna have that direct line.
But that's what I like about Elon Musk is I like anybody that will the ones who, and it's this false outrage that we live in these days of, oh my gosh, I'm going to wig out over whatever when you really don't wig out. It's climate change. Yep. To me is you've got these big MAGA hats. The big climate change people are flying in a jet. Right. And I'm like, you're not really a climate change person. You would be riding a bicycle, living in a green zone.
You hope.
But they don't. It's just a platform that they make some money on. Now, true believers, I'm all for it. Like I said this the other day, and it torqued some people. Bernie Sanders. Yep. I mean, to me, politically, he's way out there, and there's nothing ideologically that we would agree on. However, the man believes what he spews. Yep. And I can appreciate that. Most politicians, talk out of both sides of their mouth. You look at what they believed 10 years ago and now, and that's a little bit of politician and politics. But like Bernie Sanders, I mean, he's a communist and he believes it and he backs up what he says, And for me, that's Elon Musk I just laugh because he'll say stuff and I'm like, you just said that just to poke them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't do it in a way where they can.
Well, even like firing all the people from Twitter that he canned.
I loved it.
They said his email was just insensitive.
Yes.
When I just go.
Well,
you guys knew it was coming.
If you really looked at it, they had gotten so liberal woke in that world. Like he was like, "Oh, you've got to come to work."
Yeah.
Well, since when did that become like this mantra of you?
Oh, yeah.
You're overbearing, right? I'm taking away your 18 breaks.
Well, and you even go. Now Google's trying to do like a hybrid world where you can work from home and in the office, and they even had a lot of pushback that they pushed their plan back. They wanted half-time in the office, half-time at home. And I went, huh.
Well, COVID changed the dynamics of that, and I think companies realized.
I think companies realized you can be just as productive not in the workplace.
Yep.
And that's what, if you're a company, what matters is production.
Yep. There's some studies out there that showed people are more productive at home because they don't have the interaction and the distractions of everything going on at work, to which that's flipped for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got kids and animals, and I can't stay focused primarily at home.
Well,
but I do go home sometimes.
The difference in clergy and business is we're in the people business.
Yep.
Like, you don't we don't have much of a thing to do if we don't have people.
Yeah, without the people, we don't have a job.
Without the people, we don't.
Well, and that's why, like, when I come here, I fully expect to be interrupted.
Sure.
All the time. And but when I go home, I get distracted.
Yeah.
Because I'll walk out in my backyard to stretch, and next thing I know, I'm working on a back deck or
sure.
Something like that. But COVID changed the dynamics. I was talking to a buddy of mine. They're losing employees because people now are taking jobs for big companies that are headquarters in like New York. So they're getting New York pay, but they're living in Alabama economy, and you can't compete with that. Because now a lot of these, and these are big companies like AT&T, Apple, places like that, and they're hiring people now. Stay at home working is becoming the norm.
Yeah, there's a planning center, which is our church management system and database. They have the way they do their job. You gotta fly once a year out, but they pay for your plane ticket. They pay for you to go get your own computer. You work from home 98% of the time. You fly out, but they offer you the pay, benefits, everything to work from home. They'll get you their big thing is they get you a standing desk. You don't get a sitting desk. So
a standing desk.
You gotta have a standing desk.
No, I don't like that.
I mean, I guess I get it. I used to work for a company that was tobacco free inside and out. Like none of the employees could. Even at home, like that was part of it. It wasn't. We didn't get drug tested. We got tobacco tested.
Just like for health benefits.
Well, we got a crazy discount on health insurance doing that, and so that's why they kept it. But yeah, you couldn't tobacco free inside and out, and so I get it. It's companies trying to go. Our insurance cost will be lower if we can keep our employees healthier.
It's an interesting thought.
And so you just look at you look at churches, they do the same. Church of the Highlands, part of their packages, you have to run like in their 5K or complete like one of those adventure races or something like that. That's part of their requirements as an employee, and so you go. They're just trying to make sure their employees stay healthy because they know it's going to save them money in the long run.
There was a day I could have worked for them because I did a Tough Mudder.
Yeah,
that was many moons ago.
I really enjoyed running 5Ks and not so much anymore.
I don't think I would enjoy running a 5K because just to run, but I like the adventure races because it kind of breaks it up. And we did a Tough Mudder, me and Cassie and some people from church, we did a Tough Mudder up in Dallas.
Yep.
And it was fun, but your first one you got to run through the cattle shock. And they have a bunch of electrical wires hanging down, and they have moguls, dirt bumps throughout, so you can't just run. And so I tried to do old military-style low crawl, and slide over and hit, and dude, my butt hit one of those. And I also thought, I mean, how much juice can they really
Sure.
put out? Like, you're
Absolutely.
going to kill somebody.
Well,
Oh, no. Oh, dude, that was like getting kicked by a mule.
I mean, who hasn't like touched a cattle fence?
That's what it was. It was grabbing
And so-
or peeing on a fence
Yeah.
that you try to talk
I
your
mean-
neighbor into.
Oh, sure. I think everybody tries to grab it in between pulses, you know.
Well, and
Try to do that
and the
good.
best part is if you can grab it and your buddy at the same
Right.
time, it runs through you and shocks them.
Yep.
So,
Many a good times around a cattle fence.
country trolling.
that
Hey, come over here. I want to show you something.
was always my. That was anytime we had to go out to the ranch. That was always my job. Was either I had to do something with the fence or I had to dig a trench.
Dig a trench.
I had to dig holes or I don't know. And it was always, hey, if you're gonna, dig this trench, you should be here. That's when we're having lunch. You can have lunch when you get. It wasn't, hey, we're having lunch at noon. It was, you get lunch when you get to here.
So you got to determine
Yeah.
how fast. So it wasn't union work. You.
No,
you-
it was. I had the youngest back work.
Yeah.
That's what it was, and so that's what you do. I don't know. I don't miss ranch life.
See, I enjoyed ranch life. I would still go back. Like, I enjoyed being out there baling hay. I enjoyed being out fixing fence.
You enjoyed baling hay. You didn't enjoy throwing bales.
No, not at all. I enjoyed baling it, being on the tractor baling
Yeah.
it.
No.
I enjoy the horses, but I like the farm life.
Sure.
So
I don't miss it.
you don't miss it at
No.
all.
Anytime you did fence, your barbed wire was never tight enough.
No, it never is. I
Or
think
your-
barbed wire might be one of the worst inventions
Yeah.
of mankind.
Your post was never, it was
Tamped
never,
down enough.
Right,
It always
no, never
leaned.
was. Never was.
There's a guy that is out by us, and he has a patch of land that has been almost like a sod farm.
Sure.
But his other patch, he rotates crops, cotton, soybeans, and corn. But this one patch, he's always got great looking grass. I don't know if it's for hay or if it's sod or what it is. It's always super green. But he started putting fence out the other day. He's going to put cows out there. I can tell by the fence that he's got. But I'm like, man, I was really impressed at the straightness of the fence post.
And then he put barbed wire up, and they all look wonky.
No, he put
no.
he put the no climb
Okay.
like cattle fence up.
Yep.
But yeah, with you can get your post as straight as you want, and then when you tension the barbed wire, it's going to lean it.
It just never, and I don't. Your posts are never straight, anyways.
No.
So
No, not ever.
it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was not work that I think it was fine, and I don't mind working, but I did not. It's not one of those things that I fell in love with and would do for my life.
So if you weren't in the ministry
Mm-hmm.
and family dynamics were not in the picture,
Mm.
so like if you didn't have to, like if moving wasn't an issue, what would you do for a living?
My dream job, I would feel like, is I would love to, I love building tables. Like, that's what I love to do. So if I could figure out how to do that in a profitable way. But
Furniture maker, cabinet maker, cabinetry,
just tables.
just tables.
Cabinets are okay, but you talk about tedious.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about finish work.
It's just tedious. But I've always enjoyed tables. I don't know what it is about a nice table, but I don't know.
Well, my dream job collapsed because I had a retirement plan. If you've ever been around Branson or Pigeon Forge or any of the big areas, there was this organization called Ride the Ducks. And it was these amphibious things,
Oh, yeah.
and you drive around town, and it's like a sightseeing thing, and you could be the driver of that. And then the ducks, like you drive
Yep.
around town, but then you go down into the water and all that. But there was a major tragedy that happened, and a lot of people drowned. They got caught in a storm in Branson, so it has collapsed. But I have changed now because I have found out that in Nashville they have an on-off trolley that you can drive and you talk about all of the places and the towns. That's my Kramer tried it once on Seinfeld, where he was going to be the tour guide of
So
a
you just
trolley.
want to be a tour guide.
But I want to drive a trolley while I do it.
Interesting.
I'm aspiring for in my 60s.
I mean, you're pretty close.
That was rude. Speaking of which, happy birthday to my buddy Wayne Sanders. He turned 57 today. He's about to catch up with his wife, and so we just wanted to shout out and wish him a happy birthday. I want to shout out, continue prayers, and thank you for everybody that's praying for my dad. He had surgery on his shoulder, and he came out all right. So appreciate all those prayers. And
He's going to have to wait a little while.
They put his shoulder joint in backwards. He had thrashed his rotator so much he's had multiple rotator cuffs. But I mean, they did it intentionally, but they reversed the ball. Like, they put it in backwards. I was messing with them the other day. I said, now instead of throwing overhand like baseball, do you throw underhand like softball? But yeah, it was some kind of reverse ball. He said Dr. Andrews, he's one of the top. But I guess they know what they're doing, but it don't make sense to me.
Seems a little odd, but.
But thanks for your prayers, guys. I think we're out of time. We got anything we're going to talk about next week I need to prepare for?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
I don't have a clue.
See, this is kind of what our problem was today. Is we went, what did we say last week? And we didn't actually say anything.
Yeah, we didn't. Show about nothing.
The show about
made a lot of money.
It did.
I'm Kramer.
If you say so.
Y'all have a good week. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.